do something you're very passionate about.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it and you don't really love it, you're going to give up.
Then I have a rich father, not from, well-educated. I said I tried 3 times for university, all failed. I applied for Harvard for 10 times, all failed. They don't even want to see me. And I think that is a normal life, right? And I believe that it was so difficult at that time. I was so frustrated. But I believe that something is waiting for me there. And I have to work hard to prove myself. So that was the tough experience. Nobody believed that I could be successful, because everybody said, well, this guy think differently, think crazily, they think about something never work. That is the history. That's the thing. And now, after 16 years, we have an Alibaba group, we have a Tmall group, we have a Taobao group, we have an Alipay. And people say, how you make it? Why this make it? Why people cannot find opportunities, you can find opportunities. And I think people, same here today. Jack, where is the opportunity? I don't have a job. I don't have this, I don't have that. And then when you think about this, start to do it. I saw a lot of people, young people, have fantastic ideas every evening, but in the morning they go to the office again. Make the move, make the action. To everybody, to any person, tomorrow is new. Well, I said, if something, everybody believe it, everybody love it, forget about it. That's not your opportunity. Because when everybody agrees, why this opportunity should be yours? Because a lot of people don't agree with it. And you think this is good. Think carefully and find a group of people working together. And making sure the people working with you together believe the dreams. Whether investors believe in this or not, whether your friends believe it or not, whether your parents believe it or not, that's not important. You believe it. Your team believe it. And work day and night on this. That's how the things happens. Don't complain. Let the other people complain. Those people complain, those people who fail. And do not always say, well, I don't have. Think about how you can make things different. Use your own brain to think. And believe one thing, this is also another last advice I want to give you. You have to work very hard, right? Either work for the others or work for yourself. And I choose the way, work for myself. But working for myself, that means working for the society. If you really want to work for yourself, think about the others.
Particularly if you're starting a company, you need to work super hard. So what does super hard mean? Well, when my brother and I were starting our first company, instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. And we showered at the YMCA, and we're so hot up we had just one computer. So the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night. 7 days a week, all the time. Work hard, like, every waking hour. That's the thing I would say, particularly if you're starting a company. And if you do simple math, say like, okay, if somebody else is working 50 hours and you're working 100, you'll get twice as much done in the course of a year as the other company. If you're creating a company or if you're joining a company, the most important thing is to attract great people. So either join a group that's amazing, that you really respect, or if you're building a company, you've got to gather great people. I mean, all a company is a group of people that have gathered together to create a product or service. And so depending upon how talented and hardworking that group is, and the degree to which they're focused cohesively in a good direction, that will determine the success of the company. So do everything you can to gather great people if you're creating a company.
Constantly seek criticism. A well thought out critique of whatever you're doing is as valuable as gold. And you should seek that from everyone you can, but particularly your friends. Usually your friends know what's wrong, but they don't want to tell you because they don't want to hurt you. So they'll say, oh, I want to encourage my friends, so I'm not going to tell him what I think is wrong with this product. Yeah. It doesn't mean your friends are right, but very often they are right. And you at least want to listen very carefully to what they say. And to everyone, you're looking for, basically, you should take the approach that you're wrong. That you, the entrepreneur, are wrong. Your goal is to be less wrong.
Don't just follow the trend. So you may have heard me say that it's good to think in terms of the physics approach, first principles, which is, rather than reasoning by analogy, you boil things down to the most fundamental truths you can imagine, and you reason up from there. And this is a good way to figure out if something really makes sense, or if it's just what everybody else is doing. It's hard to think that way. You can't think that way about everything. It takes a lot of effort. But if you're trying to do something new, it's the best way to think. And that framework was developed by physicists to figure out counterintuitive things, like quantum mechanics. So it's really a powerful method. And then I think that the final thing I would encourage you to do is, now is the time to take risk.
When you're trying to do a startup company, or I think really anything in life, but you have to, as an entrepreneur, if you're gonna build a company, pick something you think is interesting, that has the intersection of genuinely creating real customer value, and then just stay right there and let the wave catch you. I first talked to my wife, who she had married a relatively stable, goofy, but still relatively stable person working at a Wall Street firm. I worked at a quantitative hedge fund. And this was a hard decision, and I was looking for the right framework in which to make that kind of important decision. And the right framework I found is a regret minimization framework. And so that's just a nerdy way of saying that you want to project yourself to age 80. And then think back over your life, and if you're 80, what are you want to minimize the number of regrets you have. But it was a very clear way for me to think about making that kind of life decision. And the way it helped was, I thought, okay, if I go do this thing and participate in this thing called the internet that I genuinely believe is going to be a big deal, and if I fail, am I going to regret having tried and failed? And I knew the answer to that was no. But I also knew that if I didn't try, that I would always regret that.
Step by step, ferociously. Basically, you can't skip steps. You have to put one foot in front of the other. Things take time. There are no shortcuts. And but you want to do those steps with passion and ferocity.
You know, the reality is you'll have to start small. Like we started small. And you must have a very clear understanding of why you want to do it and what focus you want to build. And the focus you want to build in terms of starting an organization is something which must be deeply passionate inside. Because you're going to go through ups and downs. In many cases, you're going to fail. Certainly, in parts of your journey, you're going to have major failures. So unless you have a very clear commitment to the focus which you build in terms of what you want to build successfully, and have the flexibility to change that focus because you've not judged the market properly. Markets don't run after you. You have to run after what the market demand is, what the market demand you can create. But you have to be persistent, and you have to be prepared to make sacrifices. So you will have to make sacrifices, and some very major sacrifices, and most of them will be financial sacrifices. Because you won't get cash flows the way you hope to get them, unless you have a brilliant, genius idea.
Integrity is practice, leadership is practice, innovation is practice. It's all practice. You've got to figure out what you want your company to be and what you consider as non-compromisable, not negotiable. And just set those out and keep them as simple as possible and keep them as few as possible and practice them. Practice them every day, every hour, every minute, and have zero exception to them.
Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I led you to believe it was easy when it wasn't. Maybe I made you think my highlights started at the free throw line and not in the gym. Maybe I made you think that every shot I took was a game winner. That my game was built on flash and not fire. Maybe it's my fault that you didn't see that failure gave me strength, that my pain was my motivation. Maybe I led you to believe that basketball was a God-given gift and not something I worked for every single day of my life. Maybe I destroyed the game. Or maybe you're just making excuses. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed.
I don't regard what I do as the most important thing in the world at all, but it's right for me. I mean, I happen to be wired in a certain way that what I do works. Well, I can certainly define happiness because that's what I am. I get to do what I like to do every single day of the year. I get to do it with people I like. Other than I tap dance to work, and it doesn't diminish. It's tremendous fun. So success is getting what you want, and happiness is wanting what you get. Well, I don't know which one applies in this case, but I do know that I wouldn't be doing anything else. I do advise you, when you go out to work, go to work for an organization that you admire, people you admire, because it'll turn you on. And not getting in your own way. As I say, everybody here has the ability, absolutely, to do anything I do and much beyond. And some of you will, and some of you won't. The ones that won't, it'll be because you get in your own way. It won't because the world doesn't allow you to. It will be because you don't allow yourself to. It's not necessary to have huge amounts of money in order to enjoy yourself. I enjoyed myself when I had my $10,000, and I live in the same house that I lived in when I was making it, when I had about that. I bought it 41 years ago. I liked the house then. I like the house now.
There are no mistakes. There really aren't any, because you have a supreme destiny. When you're in your little mind, in your little personality mind, where you're not centered, where you really don't know who you are, that you come from something greater and bigger, and we really all are the same. When you don't know that, you get all flustered. You get stressed all the time, wanting something to be what it isn't. There is a supreme moment of destiny calling on your life. Your job is to feel that, to hear that, to know that. And sometimes when you're not listening, you get taken off track. You get in the wrong marriage, the wrong relationship, you take the wrong job. Yeah, but it's all leading to the same path. There are no wrong paths. There are none. There's no such thing as failure, really, because failure is just that thing trying to move you in another direction. So you get as much from your losses as you do from your victories, because the losses are there to wake you up. When you understand that, you don't allow yourself to be completely thrown by a grade or by a circumstance, because your life is bigger than any one experience. What would you say to your younger self? Every person says in one form or another, I would have said, relax. Relax. It's going to be okay. It really is going to be okay. Because even if you're on a detour right now, and that's how you know when you're not at ease with yourself. That is the cue that you need to be moving in another direction. Don't let yourself get all thrown off, continue to be thrown off course. When you're feeling off course, that's the key. How do I turn around? So when everybody was talking about, when I started this network, if I had only known, good Lord, how difficult it would be. The way through the challenge is to get still and ask yourself, what is the next right move? Not think about, oh, I got all of this to... What is the next right move? And then from that space, make the next right move and the next right move. And not to be overwhelmed by it, because you know your life is bigger than that one moment. You know you're not defined by what somebody says is a failure for you.
The primary job of a leader is bringing about change or bringing about transformation. Transformation, as you all know, is big ticket progress. Progress is all about change. Transformation comes about because of transformation of the mindset of the people. We all have two instruments for progress. The first is the mind and the second is the mindset. To me, mind is the analytical engine that uses data to take appropriate decisions. On the other hand, mindset is the set of distinct conclusions that we have gathered from our experience over the years. Mind is what determines our aspirations, our confidence, our possibilities, and in short, our behavior.
It was thrilling. There were lots of sacrifices we had to make. There were lots of difficulties on the way. But then we have the mindset that says every obstacle is an opportunity. Every sacrifice is a joy. Every responsibility is a sacred calling. So as people who have understood those, I think while at one level it is a lot of hard work, it is some sacrifice and some deferred gratification.
Trust is the currency that reduces the cost of transactions in a society. So if you want to succeed, then you have to create trust with the society. If you don't create trust with the society, then there is no hope for that corporation to grow.
I was dyslexic. I had no understanding of schoolwork whatsoever. I certainly would have failed IQ tests, and you know, it's one of the reasons I left school when I was 15 years old. And if I'm not interested in something, you know, you know, I don't grasp it.
I mean, there's a story about your mother allegedly dumping you in a field and at aged 4 and saying, "Okay, walk home." And did this really happen?
I mean, she was, you know, she felt that we needed to stand on our own 2 feet from an early age. So she did things to us which now she'd be arrested for. So, yeah, such as, you know, pushing us out of the car and telling us to find our own way to Granny's about 5 miles before we actually got there, and making us go on, you know, wonderful long bike rides, and we're never allowed to watch television. I just love learning, and I'm incredibly inquisitive, and I love taking on the status quo and trying to turn it upside down. So I've seen life as one long learning process, and if I see, if I fly on somebody else's airline and find the experience is not a pleasant one, which it wasn't 21 years ago, then I think, well, maybe I can create the kind of airline that I'd like to fly on, and so got one sort of second-hand 747 from Boeing and gave it a go. Well, I think that there's a very thin dividing line between success and failure. We were being attacked by British Airways. They were trying to put our airline out of business, and they launched what's become known as the Dirty Tricks campaign. And I realised that the whole empire was likely to come crashing down unless I chipped in a chip. And in order to protect the jobs of the people who work for the airline and protect the jobs of the people who work for the record company, I had to sell the family jewelry to protect the airline. As it turned out, it proved to be the right move. But it was sad at the time, but we moved on.
I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. When you have a dream, and the dream isn't something you dream and then it happens, the dream is something you never knew was going to come into your life. Dreams always come from behind you, not right between your eyes. It sneaks up on you. But when you have a dream, it doesn't often come at you screaming in your face. This is who you are. This is what you must be for the rest of your life. Sometimes a dream almost whispers. And I've always said to my kids, the hardest thing to listen to, your instincts, your human personal intuition, always whispers, it never shouts. Very hard to hear. So you have to, every day of your lives, be ready to hear what whispers in your ear. It very rarely shouts. And if you can listen to the whisper, and if it tickles your heart, and it's something you think you want to do for the rest of your life, then that is going to be what you do for the rest of your life. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. I dream for a living. Years later, I realized, well, that's exactly what I do. I dream for a living. This is what I've done all my life. This is what I wanted to do with my life.
I think most people in their careers have moments of disillusionment or a sense that they don't know where they're going. I think those moments of disillusionment hit all of us at any one time. A person that has not to face any difficulties, I think, ends up being a person that's an unreal person in the world because he doesn't know how to deal with difficulties. You look at the world around you. Where did Microsoft, where did Apple, where did Amazon, where did Google, where did Facebook come from? They came from ideas that people felt something could be done, where individuals started in garages, where ideas were born, and that they could make a difference. You, in the years ahead, are going to be leaders of this country and shaping the destiny of this country. In many ways, we have been critical of what has or has not happened in our country. How many times have you heard people say, this can't be done? Do not grow with a view that something can't be done and so should not be done. It's your job to remove those myths and to get things done. As you grow in your organization, you will find that you get lonelier and lonelier, and your decision is eventually a lonely decision. You should do what you believe is right. It may be the tougher decision, it may be the tougher option, but if deep inside you, you know that it's the right decision for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons, then you should go ahead and take it. And I would hope that you look at being ethical and holding the value systems which you want this country to have. Your whole world is going to be learning and listening. Your success is going to be your humility. If you speak or sit next to a Nobel laureate, he never tells you that he won a Nobel Prize. Other people tell you. Let humility be your best defense. So as you go out into this world, you need to ask yourself why you're there. Are you there for money, or are you going because you really want to make a difference in the world by what you do? All of us, in our own ways, need to ask ourselves, are we doing something we feel proud of? Are we doing something that we feel is making a difference? Or do we bask in showing off our wealth or our prosperity or our well-being so that people can look up to us? If it's that, then I think we're wasting our lives. There are people that need our help, and if we've sent one poor person to school and seen that person prosper, it should give us a feeling of well-being. Much more than making our first million or billion, as the case might be. You need to give back to society some of the learning you have done, to do something for your country and for society. And you shouldn't merely consider yourself successful based on the prosperity you gain for yourself, but you should go home at night feeling satisfied if you have made a difference. That difference is something each one of us can make. We'll have failures and we've had frustrations, but it's a continued commitment that we have to the world around us, to ourselves and to the people of India.
One of the great things about India is this tremendous interest in education. People talk about it all the time. Most parents aspire for this for their children. And so I think it's a great foundation we have as a country. You know, in my experience growing up here, I think there's a lot of emphasis on spending time on the books and learning things academically. I think there's a lot of pressure to follow set lanes throughout your career. You know, you're in high school, you're thinking about college. A lot of times when I was younger, you know, people would say, you know, this person didn't get into this college or something, and that's the end of the road. I mean, life is so different from that. I get surprised people start preparing for IIT in their 8th grades. That's a bit shocking to me. You know, I get very surprised people come to IITs and immediately they are thinking about IIMs and so on. The US, for example, most students don't choose their majors till their final year. So people explore different things and find what they're really passionate about. The way I dealt with these things was try and feel what I really enjoy doing and pursue that. I would do what feels something like you like spending time on. I would use that as a yardstick and not feel the pressure to do what others are telling you to do. I've always wanted to work on computing, build computing products. The thing which still keeps me going is the desire to build products which will be used by billions of users and makes a difference for them. And that's what I've been focused on. I mean, it doesn't need to be even in engineering. There are many, many different ways, and you will see this later in life. People do well from all walks of life. I think education needs to evolve and change just like with everything else. Getting into an elite institution doesn't guarantee success. It matters a lot, but it doesn't guarantee success. You know, I would like to see people value creativity, value experience of doing things, taking risks. It is important to be well-rounded. I would encourage people to try different things, take some risks, follow their passions a little bit more, enjoy what you're doing. And what matters most is loving what you're doing and trying to do well at it. So I think if you follow your heart and do what you like, you will always do much better. It's worthwhile taking risks and trying to do something you're really excited by. And if the first attempt you don't do it, you know, you can try again, and you know, things tend to work out in the long run. If you work on really difficult things, you're better off because you have no competition. Others aren't working on that difficult a problem. Even if you fail, you end up doing something great in the process. You want to aim high enough that you fail a few times. I think that's the natural part of the process. Setbacks actually don't matter. In Silicon Valley, part of the reason so many people start up a company is, you know, starting up a company and even having failed, you know, you can wear it like a badge of honor. And I think that's important. Culturally, risk is rewarded. So I think it's important to keep your hopes, keep your dreams, and try to follow them. Most of how life plays out is up to you, not up to what happens outside of you. And I think it's important to keep that in mind and take the long-term view. Some point in your life, you have to work with people where you feel a bit insecure, because that means you're working with people who are better than you and who are pushing you. If you actually feel very secure in what you do, it means you're doing something comfortable and you're not pushing yourself. There are many, many times I've felt working with people in a group, am I doing enough? These people seem much better than me, and I think it's an inherent part of learning. And as a leader, you know, I think it's really important to build organizations where people actually want to work together and, you know, trusting them to doing the right thing. And as a leader, it's less about trying to be successful and more about to make those people successful. I'm absolutely, you know, with full certainty convinced that India will be a global player in the digital economy, and it'll be competitive with any country in the world.
Over 20 years ago, I coined the expression, think big, and it's been a part of my life ever since. It's also come true. I became an even bigger success after I said it than I was before. And that's one reason I think it's an important way to think. It obviously works, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. What I said exactly in my first book, The Art of the Deal, is as follows. I like thinking big. I always have. To me, it's very simple. If you're going to be thinking anyway, you might as well think big. That book was a bestseller, and it's considered a business classic at this point. But I never thought those words would become bestsellers in their own right. It's an interesting point that I'm famous for two very short statements. Think big and you're fired. But let's stick to the first one for today. And I'd suggest strongly that you pay attention so that you won't have to hear the second one. Thinking big starts with the details and grows from there. Because I'm a builder, I'm very aware of the importance of having a good foundation. You can't take chances in construction. You can't be haphazard and say, well, maybe this will work, maybe it won't, so let's try it and find out. Because a lot of people will be at risk. I have to know if something will work or not. Every inch has to be accounted for. In other words, thinking big starts with being thorough. So number one, be thorough. Don't count on happenstance to get you anywhere, because it won't. Number two, get a momentum going and keep your momentum going. You have to have big ideas, but you've got to have the energy to get them done, which can sometimes take a long time. If you don't have momentum, you will not have what it takes to get the job done. Patience alone isn't enough. I have a lawyer friend who used to refer to me as the reverse tornado who builds everything in his path. I always like that because it implies a lot of energy and a lot of momentum. And that's exactly what it takes to get anything done. So keep your momentum going. Number three, stay focused. You have to stay focused. The minute you lose focus, you will also be losing your momentum. They go together and you will accomplish a lot more, even amazing things, if you make sure you keep these two things working together for you. I've seen very talented people literally go down the drain because they couldn't seem to keep their focus long enough to get anything done. In this day of multitasking, that can be a real challenge, but it's absolutely necessary. Ask yourself this question: what should I be thinking about right now? That simple question can restore your focus in no time at all. And your answer right now should be listening to Donald Trump. Number four, look at the solution, not the problem. This is very important if you ever want to learn to think big. And here's why. No matter what you do, you're bound to run into problems. It's just part of life, a part of business, a part of anything worth doing. If you let the problems get in your way, they'll become bigger than your idea was to begin with, and you will be a wipeout. No matter how bad things look, keep your focus on the solution, and you will be surprised how things can work out, and work out properly. One way I do this is to ask myself when confronting a possible problem, is this a blip or is this a catastrophe? A catastrophe is something like an earthquake, a tsunami, a war, and so forth, and a blip is everything else. Right away you'll have the right perspective and your equilibrium will be restored. So keep your focus on the solution. Number five, see opportunity for what it is, an opportunity. For example, why are you listening to me today? Curiosity? You like me? You don't like me? You want to learn? You have nothing else to do? You want to hear me tell you you're fired? I hope not. But whatever your reasons might be, they brought you to a good place to get involved and to learn. And that's an opportunity right there. People think that because I'm rich and famous that I know everything. I know a lot. But one thing I know is that I don't know everything. So I ask myself this question every day. What can I learn today that I didn't know before? And you know what? I learn something new every single day. That's a big reason for my success, and the same thing can apply to you. Take the time to see today as an opportunity, and you'll be surprised by what can come your way. Be open to new ideas, and you will be creating your own opportunities before too long. Number six, know everything you can about what you're doing. That's a good way to cover your bases. Another good way is to read the book Robert Kiyosaki and I have written together, Why We Want You to Be Rich. It's about covering your bases and knowing what's going on. I remember when some guys came in to meet with me about a great idea they had for an atrium for a building on Wall Street. It was a beautiful idea except for one thing. None of them had thought about how the building would be supported around this fabulous atrium. They didn't take into account the steel columns that were necessary to support a 72-story building. A very big and embarrassing oversight that could have been avoided if they'd taken the time to think about what they were doing. Don't let that happen to you. Know what you're doing first. Number 7, be lucky. Remember the old saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Well, it happens to be true. It works for me, and I've encountered some pretty big successes. But this goes along with something that's absolutely necessary for great success. Be passionate. You have to love what you're doing if you want to be successful at it. My father told me that it's absolutely true. I might work 7 days a week, but it doesn't seem like work to me because I love what I'm doing. If you don't like what you're doing, find something else to do, or do it part-time until you can find something full-time. You will never be successful, happy, or healthy unless you're doing what you love to do. That's just the way it is. So give it some thought. In fact, give it a lot of thought. For example, if you're feeling frustrated, there are 2 ways to look at the situation. Frustration can mean that maybe you're expecting too much, or it can be an indication that you know you should be, or could be, doing more. Use frustration as a motivator. Use it to get where you want to go instead of staying where you don't want to be. But above all, be passionate. That's the fast track to success, no matter what your interests are. Number 8, see yourself as victorious. That can zap negativity immediately and put a positive spin on problems. I've gotten to the point where I see problems as challenges that I'll enjoy meeting and dealing with. My point here is that no matter what you do, you will encounter problems. Why not see them as challenges instead and know that you are more capable of dealing with them? That's positive thinking with a realistic slant. When I go into negotiations, I keep an open mind to what may happen. But I can tell you that there's already a done deal attitude on my part. I've already thought the process through to the extent that I know everything will be better off if they agree with what I've come up with because I've taken both sides into account. I enter the situation with a victorious attitude, and I've had enough victories to know that this attitude works. Use it. Number 9, be smart. Know that you have something unique to offer because you do use the tools that are provided for you and remain open to new ideas. That's being smart. That's also where innovation comes from. Being smart means you know how to use what you've got. That doesn't mean there's nothing left to learn, but it means that you will have the ability to learn and move forward with success. And success is very important. Success is what you want. Just be successful. Believe me, you'll be happier. I know people who have had very few real advantages in life, and yet they've managed to become giant successes. They figured out how to use what they had, not to dwell on what they didn't have. I'm convinced that everyone has something useful to offer, and if you apply yourself diligently, you'll find that you have what it takes to succeed, and you're going to be a lot happier for it. Number 10, above all, never give up. Never, never, never give up. The only time you will be a failure is if you quit trying. Only losers quit. The biggest losers in the world are quitters. Winners keep on going. So whatever you do, never give up. My father always used to harp, never give up, son, never give up. Don't ever quit. I never want to see you give up or quit. Well, my father was a smart guy, and I listened to him. And remember, think big.
To give up. Never give up. The challenge is to hold on. And if you hold on tenaciously, I say the universe is on your side.